Hello and welcome to Tabletop for One. No doubt you have heard of or even participated in discussions about whether Marvel Champions or Arkham Horror, the card game, is the better of the two. But how does Warfighter stand up against these games? I own all three games, most content for Arkham and Marvel, and some content for Warfighter. I couldn't help but notice the similarities between these games and how each of them compete for my attention. Today I will put these games up against each other in various categories and see which one comes out on top. The first category is theme. And when I'm talking about theme, I'm talking about the story and how it adds to the gaming experience. And the winner for this category is going to be Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror, in its core game and its expansions, provides these scenario books. Gives you background on the story, tells you what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then it gives you choices, and it tells you which conclusion you reach based on your performance in the game. Did you save one person? Well, now they're going to help you in the rest of the game. Did that person die? Well, now there's a bad token in the chaos bag for the rest of the campaign. Warfighter, however, is a close second. Warfighter, the story in Warfighter is told as you play, as you go to each location, as you are ambushed, and as you lose a good soldier in a firefight. But there is no narration provided for the game. It relies on the historical context and the source material of the World War II era and all the history behind it. This is an example of one of the campaign maps that you're able to play and go from mission to mission and see how you perform in the end. Marvel Champions is last on this list, and that's mainly because it is designed to be more of a streamlined game. Here is one of the campaign books for Marvel Champions. For me, I never really felt immersed in the story that these campaigns provide. Yes, there are things that carry over. You're gonna gain new abilities or new cards and whatnot. But for me, I just never felt the story. It always felt like a beat the villain scenario every single time I played. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play against the villains, to beat them with the different characters, but the story just isn't there for me. Alright, the next category is theme integration. Theme integration is where the mechanics and components of the game embrace and enhance the theme of the game. Now, Warfighter, hands down, has the best integration of its theme in the mechanics of the game. You don't have to at all stretch your imagination to understand why you missed your shots in the middle of the jungle, or that the grenade you threw killed 2 hostiles while suppressing 2 others, or that it is more difficult to fire at hostiles in a building than in an open field. Arkham Horror, for the most part, requires that you use imagination to understand the thematic integration of its mechanics. Why have the chaos bag? What are the clues exactly? How does resource cost translate thematically? Those are just a few of the mechanics in the game that really require you to just think it through and figure out a reason why they exist. Marvel Champions suffer similar issues with its theme integration. The whole flip to alter ego and flip to hero is fun mechanically, but makes little to no sense thematically. Also, it always throws me for a loop that Iron Man has to piece together his suit. I can't tell you how many times I go into battle against the villain wearing perhaps just the boots or the gloves. He might not have the helmet. You know, it's just doesn't make sense. Arkham Horror also has a similar issue with its investigators starting a scenario or a campaign with no equipment, allies, or talents. Don't get me wrong, part of the fun of those games is getting your hero or investigator equipped and upgraded at the beginning of a scenario. But Warfighter lets you outfit your squad ahead of time, equipping the way you want, up to the loadout limit, of course, and still lets you get gear along the way at times. The next category is replayability. Each of these games boasts a huge amount of content. Alright, so I'm going to show you. This here is my Arkham Horror box, and it contains tons and tons of cards. Now these are, well, this is one of the full cycles, campaign cycles, but these are all the class cards. I also have 4 of the Return To boxes that contain a full cycle of each, like this one here. All right. So vast amount of content. The Warfighter system also has a huge amount of content. I have the ammo crate here, which has a bunch of the cards, as well as a bunch of expansion packs to add to the core set. And that, by the way, is only a fraction of the amount of expansions you can get. And then you have Marvel Champions, which you already saw the core box. But here are the expansion packs. And this one in particular is all of my heroes. There's a lot of them. Okay? So, which one of these is the best as far as replayabilities? And I'm going to have to say that Marvel Champions edges out the others just barely due to the way the heroes are. Look at all these heroes here. I like all these little posters they give you. Each hero has its own deck of 15 cards, which you add 25 cards to. Along with that, there's something like 500 or more different combinations of heroes with an aspect deck and a scenario to play. The setup, playtime, and teardown is quite quick if playing solo. So you're going to get a lot of games out of it in a short amount of time, and the gameplay is a lot of fun, very quick, and enjoyable. Now, Warfighter is not far behind. It offers a huge roster of soldiers, many different mission and objective combinations. Like I said before, many different expansions. Look, there's even a Cthulhu one. And a huge amount of loadout customization. I graded this one less than Marvel due to the overall playtime being longer and less streamlined than Marvel. Arkham Horror, while last, is still close. There are many investigators to play. Here's my whole stack of investigators here. And many ways to build your decks and lots of campaigns to play. The part that suffers in its replayability here, and why it's on the bottom of the 3, is that the campaign reveal and the deck building. All right, after replaying this same campaign several times, the story loses its luster. You already know it. You probably know which decisions you're going to make, and the excitement diminishes. And in regards to deck building, there comes a time when you recognize that certain cards will always make the deck. Of course, you could choose other cards instead, but some cards are just too powerful not to include. Marvel Champions suffers this way in deck building too, but the most powerful cards tend to be hero specific. Alright, so I know I've upset the Arkham Horror crowd with that last category, so you'd be happy to know that Arkham Horror wins the next category of aesthetics. Arkham Horror is the best art of the three, possibly the best card quality and good graphic design. I really appreciate, as you can see, this is great art here. The art on the majority of the cards really adds to the theme. I just like it all around. I like the iconography. I like the layout on the cards. You know, everything is very easily recognizable. The only thing I would say I have a problem with is, you know, the text is really small. But it's got a great graphic design, and I really appreciate it. Now, Warfighter, on the other hand, goes to second place on this. And what I like about Warfighter is its use of the black and white photos. Alright? It really adds to the theme. The font choices are great. Everything's easily readable. And the color palette of all the cards is very appealing and provides a very thematic canvas for the game. The issue I have with the Warfighter cards is the graphic design. You may see down here at the bottom the numbers here. While they do reference expansions, it's not as clear as can be how that's referenced. The layout sometimes is a little more confusing than I'd like it to be, perhaps having the movement value above the cover value, or using better symbols for those things might be better. Nevertheless, after several plays, I have less issue reading the cards than I did originally. Now, Marvel Champions has possibly the best graphic design of all three. I really appreciate the layout of the cards. I'm covering this up here because I'm about to reveal why it's in third place. Some of the art and the color choice is really bad. Alright, so here we go. Look at that picture. It's awful. And this color choice, this is a Gamora card. It's a hero card, right? It's a gray color. And the green. It's not easily distinguishable from some of the other cards. And there's a few hero cards that look too close to some of the neutral cards in the game. I know it has the icon down here to easily show it's got the green color, but I'm not too pleased with the color choices sometimes with this. Nevertheless, the graphic design, the location of the numbers, everything is readable, and the important things are in bold. The traits of the cards, everything works out really well and is really pleasing to the eye. So I do appreciate that. All right. Let's go on. With Arkham Horror taking that last one, let's go to gameplay. Okay. So gameplay is largely affected by each of the previous categories: aesthetics, replayability, thematic, mechanics, and the theme can all have effect on how the game plays. All three games have similar gameplay. All right, you recognize this? They each have a mission, an objective, an act, or a villain. They each involve a hand of cards that you play. They each involve equipping and developing a character or a team of characters. They each have a timer to the game, whether it be Threat or Doom or the timer in Warfighter, and they each have a chance of player elimination. So which one does it best? I believe that Warfighter has the best gameplay, but just barely. The gameplay integrates almost seamlessly with the theme that you often forget you are rolling dice. But you think you are actually throwing a grenade at a mortar team that has been pounding your soldiers with blasts. You grow attached to your soldiers in your squad, and many times I have seriously had my heart pounding as a kamikaze soldier attacked one of my squad. Perhaps it is the source material, World War II, that offers such a rich, real background to this game that you're playing. All in all, I enjoy the gameplay of Warfighter the most. Arkham Horror and Marvel Champions gameplays are so close that I don't think I can place one above the other. They are both equally fun, but the gameplay sometimes suffers from being so detached from the theme that it constantly reminds you that you are just playing some cards and pulling tokens out of a bag. Alright, let's move on to the last category. The last category is strategy. It's hard for me to pick a winner for this category. All three games have their strategies, largely centered on a pre-game deck building or squad building. During each game, you'll be making strategic choices regarding which cards to play, but also which location to go to. Not in Marvel, but the other two. Warfighter does allow for a little more strategy with location choice than Arkham. All three games have an encounter deck of sorts. Arkham's and Marvel's have similar decks that bring out various difficult situations. Warfighter has the reinforcement phase, which involves drawing and possibly adding hostiles to some locations, and some hostiles trigger events that are mostly detrimental. Arkham and Warfighter have more randomness in the game with the Chaos Bag and Dice, but they also have ways to mitigate those results. One mark against Marvel Champions is that typically you want to play as many cards from your hand as possible each round. Whereas in Arkham and Warfighter, you may want to save cards for use in particular situations that are more strategic and advantageous. The difference between Arkham and Warfighter then is that in Warfighter, you can spend an action to rest and refocus, which means to discard and draw up to your hand size. And the actions in Warfighter are much more crucial to those of Arkham. They both have a similar system of actions. You get X amount per character. But you generally have less actions for a game with Warfighter than Arkham, making your strategic decisions all the more important. So Warfighter wins the category in the end. Alright, here we are at the end. Remember that this is just one person's opinion, but here it goes. After scoring each of the games in the different categories, the winner of the battle between Marvel Champions, Arkham Horror, and Warfighter World War II is Warfighter. As you can see, the scores were very close, so I would imagine that some of you will likely disagree with the results. Just know I absolutely love all three games. They will never leave my collection. However, if you only own one or two of them and want another card game that's similar, consider getting one of these you don't have. Or perhaps you didn't like the theme of one of them, but may enjoy a different theme. Then check out one of the games that has an appealing theme. Fantasy Flight Games sells Arkham Horror and Marvel Champions, and Dan Verson Games, DVG Games, sells the Warfighter series. Also, there is a Kickstarter campaign currently going on for the latest two Warfighter World War II core expansions, which take place in North Africa and the Mediterranean. One of those expansions will give you a ton of content, so don't feel like you need to go all in, although I did. Nevertheless, thank you so much for watching. Please leave comments. Please tell me how much you disagree with me or agree with me, or maybe you hate me for picking Warfighter above the rest. For those of you that own any one of these games, I hope you do enjoy the games. These are great games, and I greatly enjoy them. And I just love the experience that they all provide. Thank you for watching Tabletop for One, and I hope you have a great night.